You read that right. My pregnant daughter told me to disappear the same week she inherited $55 million. I left without a scene, without a tear. 7 days later, she was on my porch at dawn, shaking, begging to see me. What changed in a week? Everything. And if you are watching this, subscribe and tell me where you are tuning in from, because this story will have you choosing sides. Let me show you how a quiet mother turns a power play into a checkmate, and why one clause hidden in a legacy can flip a fortune and a family in a single week. 2 months ago, I was Ellen Whitaker, widow of 42 years, mother to one radiant and razor-sharp daughter named Lila. She was 8 months pregnant, glowing in silk dresses and certainty. When my husband Graham died suddenly, the house became a museum of silence. Lila arrived with sympathy flowers and solutions. "Mom, you should not be rattling around this big place alone. The stairs, the memories. Not healthy." I missed the warning hidden in her kindness. Graham had always adored Lila, his little visionary who never asked for permission, only forgiveness. She married Nolan, a rising deal-maker who spoke in forecasts and exit strategies. They brought me casseroles and brochures for senior living. Activities, friends your age, no responsibilities. It sounded like being placed on a shelf. The final visit landed like a gavel. "Mom, we need to talk." Graham's will cleared. The trusts have matured. Everything transitions now. She stood in my foyer with a messenger bag and a plan. "According to council, I take stewardship of the estate. You can move to the Maple Grove community. It is affordable and safe." Just the wife, I thought, as if 42 years of partnership were housekeeping with rings. I packed slowly, one suitcase for clothes, one for keepsakes, one small box of photographs. Nolan carried them to his spotless car. "You will love the freedom," he said, eyes fixed on the road. The Maple Grove community was less golden years, more peeling paint and bingo flyers taped to walls. My unit smelled of bleach and resignation. Lila gave me an envelope of cash like she was tipping hotel staff. "This should cover you until Nolan sets up transfers," she said. "Transfers from my own husband's legacy." Then she kissed my cheek, already distracted by a call. I sat on the narrow bed that night, staring at the single dresser drawer my life now fit into. 42 years distilled to a motel-sized room. But something gnawed at me. Graham had been precise with finances, borderline obsessive. I remembered the will he'd shown me, the way his finger tapped each line. "This way, Ellen, you'll never worry. I want you secure." Those words echoed louder than Lila's fake compassion. The next morning, I used the public computer in the lobby to find Graham's old attorney, Charles Benton. His office was 20 minutes by bus, but it felt like a lifetime away from Maple Grove. When I stepped inside, his secretary blinked in shock. "Mrs. Whitaker." "I thought you were traveling," Lila said. Charles emerged, warm smile fading as soon as he saw my face. "Ellen, my dear, where have you been?" "We held the reading last week." "Reading?" My voice cracked. "Of the will." Lila assured me you were too distraught to attend. She promised she would explain everything. My knees buckled. "She told me Graham left her everything." Charles's eyes sharpened, the lawyer's gaze switching from pity to alarm. He retrieved a thick file, laying it gently on his desk. "That is impossible." Graham was crystal clear. He read aloud, each word a hammer against the lie my daughter had built. My name, my inheritance, 70% of assets, the house, and a clause I had never seen before. To my daughter, Lila Whitaker Hayes. I leave 20% of the estate, contingent upon her treatment of her mother in the year following my death. The air went still. Graham had foreseen her cruelty. I pressed my hand to the page, as though touching Graham's signature might steady me. "Contingent upon her treatment of me?" I whispered. Charles nodded. "Yes. If she fails to treat you with dignity and respect, her inheritance reverts entirely to you." My chest tightened. 7 days. It had been only 7 days since she'd driven me out. since Nolan loaded my suitcases like trash. 7 days, and she'd already violated the very condition that secured her fortune. Charles leaned forward, his tone firm now. Ellen, your daughter, has committed fraud. She misrepresented the will, expelled you from your home, and likely forged documents to seize control. That is not just cruel, it is criminal. The room spun. I remembered Lila's eyes that day. Not cold, but calculating, like a chess player already 5 moves ahead. Graham must have known. He must have seen what I hadn't, and this clause was his final safeguard. Charles, what do I do now? First, we contact the authorities. Then we secure your accounts. Everything she thinks is hers. The investments, the estate, the trusts, will be frozen by sundown. She'll discover that her so-called inheritance was built on a trap she walked right into. For the first time since Graham's funeral, I felt something like hope. Not joy, not yet, but the shift of gravity back in my favor. By late afternoon, Charles's office had become mission control. Phone lines buzzed, bank holds initiated, investigators briefed. I sat in his leather chair, a witness to the unraveling of my daughter's empire. At 3:42 p.m., my phone rang. Lila's name blazed across the screen. Mom? What's going on? The accounts? They're frozen. The utilities are suspended. The bank says there's an investigation. What did you do? I steadied my voice. I sat down with Graham's lawyer. The one who read the real will while you told him I was too distraught to attend. Silence. Then a sharp inhale. Mom, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. You lied, you forged, and you threw your pregnant mother out of her own home. Her voice dropped to a pleading whisper. Mom, please. You're confused. Grief is clouding your judgment. Someone is taking advantage of you. The audacity. Even caught, Lila's instinct was manipulation. No, sweetheart. What's happening is simple. Your father trusted me. He trusted me more than you, and now his words are binding you tighter than any chain. On the other end, I heard her breathing fast like a caged animal searching for a gap. We can work this out. Meet me tonight. We'll fix this before it goes too far. I glanced at Charles. He shook his head. Too late for that, I said, and ended the call. Charles placed a comforting hand over mine. She's desperate. She knows her world just collapsed. By evening, every account was locked, every document under scrutiny. A detective named Rodriguez arrived to examine the forged will Lila had shown me. These aren't amateur, she muttered, flipping through the pages. This required help. Someone with legal knowledge, financial access, likely her husband, of course. Nolan, the strategist, the deal maker. It wasn't just Lila's betrayal. It was orchestrated, a joint operation. 2 hours later, Nolan's credit cards were declined at an upscale restaurant downtown. A call log confirmed it. Multiple frantic attempts to reach the bank, then my number. When his call came through, I let it ring until the 4th buzz. Margaret, he said smoothly, reverting to his boardroom tone. Surely this is a misunderstanding. Victoria. Lila, I corrected coldly. Lila made some rash choices, but dragging police into this isn't necessary. Let's resolve it privately. I almost laughed. Privately? You helped steal my home and my fortune. You told me to find somewhere else to die. And now that the money is slipping away, you want privacy. He hesitated. You'll ruin the family. Think of the grandchildren. I held the phone closer, my voice sharp as glass. I am thinking of them. And they deserve to see what happens when greed rots love into betrayal. Detective Rodriguez leaned back in her chair, tapping the forged pages with her pen. Mrs. Whitaker, this isn't just a civil dispute. This is elder fraud, forgery, conspiracy. We're talking prison time. The word hung in the air. Prison. For my pregnant daughter. For my son-in-law who spoke in profit margins. They thought they'd outsmart an old widow, Rodriguez added. But what they've done is airtight criminal behavior. By the next morning, the investigation was moving faster than I could process. Charles updated me between calls. The estate accounts are secured. Utilities are frozen. Even their investment portfolios are under review. I pictured Lila in my kitchen, probably planning baby showers with money she thought was hers. Nolan drafting future real estate ventures with capital he didn't control, each card collapsing in real time. At 3:17 p.m., Lila called again. Her voice was ragged this time, stripped of confidence. "Mom, please. The banks are saying everything belongs to you. That can't be right. Daddy wanted me to have security." I closed my eyes, steadying myself before answering. "Your father wanted you to have character. Security was meant to follow. You don't understand. I was protecting you." "Protecting me?" I snapped. "By throwing me into Maple Grove with 2 suitcases? By forging papers to erase 42 years of my marriage? You weren't protecting me. You were protecting your greed." On the line, silence thickened into panic. Then finally, her voice cracked. "Mom, can we please meet? Just us. No lawyers, no police. I need to explain." I glanced at Detective Rodriguez, who was standing beside me, listening. She mouthed one word: "Stall." "All right," I said slowly. "We'll meet. But it won't be on your terms anymore." Rodriguez scribbled something into her notebook, a grim smile tugging at her mouth. "Good. Let's set the stage. She thinks she's desperate now? Wait until she realizes just how deep she's sunk." 2 days later, the walls of Lila's perfect world officially crumbled. Nolan's firm was subpoenaed, his emails seized, and every deal he touched placed under review. The banks froze his access so thoroughly that his cards bounced at a gas station pump. The humiliation must have burned deeper than the financial hit. Meanwhile, Charles handed me copies of Graham's updated will. "Keep these close." "They're your shield?" I traced Graham's signature again, imagining him drafting the clause about Lila, already fearing what she'd become. He hadn't left me defenseless. He'd left me armed. That evening, my phone buzzed with a message from Nolan. "We need to resolve this discreetly. Let's sit down like family." I typed back one word: police. The following morning, Rodriguez confirmed the warrants were ready. "If your daughter pushes further, we'll move to arrest." But something tells me she'll come crawling before then. At 7:06 a.m., I opened my front door to find her on the porch. No silk dress this time, just rumpled clothes, swollen eyes, mascara streaked like ash. Her hands rested over her belly, a subconscious shield. "Mom," she said, voice raw, "please, I can't lose you. I can't lose everything I studied her for a long moment, seeing not my little girl but the woman who had banished me, who had traded love for greed. 7 days ago you told me to disappear, remember?" Her lips trembled. "I was wrong. I see that now. Wrong doesn't erase the damage. You tried to erase me?" Tears spilled, and for the first time, they weren't calculated. They were ugly, desperate. "I'm your daughter. Don't let them put me in prison. Don't let my baby be born while I'm locked away." I felt the weight of 42 years of motherhood pressing on me, and the sharper weight of betrayal pressing harder. Her words clawed at me, but I kept my arms crossed. "Do you remember what your father feared most, Lila? He feared you would treat me as disposable, and in 1 week you proved him right." She shook her head violently. "No, I thought I was protecting his legacy. Nolan said—" I cut her off. "Stop blaming Nolan. He may have planned the forgeries, but you stood in my doorway, looked me in the eye, and told me to find somewhere else to die. That was all you." She dropped onto the porch steps, clutching her stomach, sobbing without elegance. "Please, Mom. Just tell the lawyer it was a misunderstanding. Tell the police you don't want charges pressed." From behind the curtain, Rodriguez observed silently, recording every word. I lowered my voice, making sure every syllable cut. "A misunderstanding is forgetting an appointment. What you did was theft, fraud, betrayal. You stole from your own mother before your child was even born." Her sobs deepened. shaking her frame. For a moment I felt the tug of compassion, the echo of the baby I once rocked through fevers and nightmares. But the echo shattered against the present, the woman who had exiled me with a smile. "Lila," I said finally, "actions have consequences. You wanted to be Graham's heir? Then inherit his accountability too. He planned for this. He made sure I would be protected from you, and now that protection is law." Her face twisted, anger flickering through the tears. "You think you've won, don't you? But Nolan has connections. He won't let this stand." I stepped back into the doorway, my voice firm. "Then Nolan can explain those connections in front of a judge. As for you, pray your child doesn't inherit your greed." Rodriguez opened the door wider, her badge catching the morning light. "Lila Whitaker Hayes, we need to talk inside." Rodriguez's presence silenced the porch. Lila's eyes darted between me and the badge, her breath coming in sharp, shallow bursts. "Mom, you wouldn't," she whispered. "I wouldn't what?" I asked. "Protect myself? Honor your father's wishes? Hold you accountable?" Rodriguez motioned for us to step inside. Lila hesitated, then followed, wiping her face with trembling hands. She looked so small in my living room, stripped of her designer armor. "Mrs. Whitaker," Rodriguez said, "we have enough evidence to arrest both your daughter and her husband on fraud and elder abuse charges. But before we proceed, I want to know your wishes." Lila's head snapped up, eyes wide with a glimmer of hope. "See? You can stop this, Mom. You can save me." For a heartbeat, the room blurred. I saw her as a child again, handing me finger-painted cards, asking me to keep nightmares away. But then I remembered Maple Grove. I remembered her words, sharp as knives. "Find somewhere else to die. You're useless now." I straightened. "Detective, I want to move forward. My daughter must answer for what she's done." The hope drained from Lila's face, replaced by raw panic. "Mom, please, you're my mother. You can't do this." I turned away. "You stopped calling me mother the day you chose money over me." Rodriguez began reading Lila her rights. My daughter's sobs filled the air, mixing with the steady, unflinching cadence of the law. As they led her out, she twisted toward me, one last desperate plea spilling out. "Think of the baby." The door shut behind them, leaving me alone in the silence of my reclaimed home. My chest ached, but not with regret. It ached with the weight of a truth I'd finally accepted. Love without respect isn't love at all. The next morning, Charles called with updates. "Nolan's been detained." The forged documents were traced to a printing firm tied to his associates. His financial records, well, let's just say he won't be walking out of this easily. I thanked him, though gratitude felt too small a word for the relief flooding my chest. For decades, I had been invisible in financial matters, the dutiful wife, the supportive mother. Now I was the one holding the strings. News of the arrests spread quickly. Reporters called, neighbors whispered, even church acquaintances left voicemails dripping with curiosity. I ignored them all. For once, I wasn't obligated to explain, to soften, to apologize. Instead, I walked through the house, my house, room by room. For 42 years, I had decorated around Graham's tastes, adjusted for Lila's whims. But now the walls were blank canvases. His study would become a library. The wine cellar Lila had dreamed of would never exist. This home would finally reflect me. That afternoon, Detective Rodriguez stopped by. She set her folder down and regarded me carefully. "Mrs. Whitaker, you should know this isn't over. Nolan's associates will try to fight. Lila may attempt appeals. There will be pressure." I folded my hands calmly. I've lived through funerals, betrayals, and 7 days of exile. I can handle pressure. Rodriguez smiled faintly. "That's what I thought." As the sun dipped, I stood at the front window, watching the neighborhood children ride bikes down the street. A strange peace settled over me, fragile but real. For the first time since Graham's death, I wasn't surviving. I was standing. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Mom, please, just one chance to explain. I need you." 7 days ago, I had begged for her compassion. Tonight, she was begging for mine. I stared at the message glowing on my phone. "Mom, please, just one chance to explain. I need you." 7 days ago, she had told me I was useless. 7 days ago, she had cast me out of my own home. And now, with her world collapsing, she needed me. For a moment, I let myself feel the pull, the ancient bond of mother and child, the instinct to protect, to forgive. But then I remembered the sagging bed at Maple Grove, the envelope of pity cash, the smug tilt of her chin as she claimed everything that was mine. Compassion didn't erase cruelty. I typed back one sentence: "I'll see you in court." Setting the phone aside, I walked into what used to be Graham's study. Sunlight spilled through the windows onto blank walls waiting for new paint, fresh purpose. For decades, I had shaped my life around others. Graham's ambitions, Lila's needs, Nolan's plans. Now the blueprint was mine. Over the following weeks, headlines followed every turn of the case. Nolan's empire disintegrated under investigation. Lila's face, once gracing society pages, now appeared beneath words like fraud and elder abuse. I didn't gloat, but I also didn't hide. I gave one interview, my voice steady. No one, not even family, has the right to strip someone of their dignity. When I finished speaking, the reporter whispered, "You sound stronger than most people half your age." I smiled. Strength doesn't come from age. It comes from survival. 6 months later, the house was unrecognizable, warm, filled with color, my art on the walls. I brewed coffee in a kitchen designed for me, not for anyone else's legacy. And as I sipped, I realized the truth Graham had left me along with his fortune. Respect is the only inheritance worth keeping. And if you're still watching, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Because stories like mine, they aren't just stories, they're warnings.